Hello and welcome to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Podcast. We are sitting here with Stephen O'Hanlon of Monaghan today. We are grateful to get him in finally because he was meant to be in earlier in the season. But we had a great conversation about all things Monaghan, about their season, a little bit about injuries, a little bit about college football, a little bit about the matches at the weekend and what we expect to see this coming weekend in the semi-finals. So now, onto the podcast. Stephen O'Hanlon, welcome to the Backdoor Cut Podcast.
Thanks for having me on, lads.
No worries at all. Thanks for joining us as well, Owen.
Fuck me. It's McGurn here. I've been here plenty of times. I guess McGurn's a part-timer.
I'm losing count.
Yeah, the amount of times you've been here, or the amount of times you've missed.
We should put up maybe a board or something, a leaderboard, and between you and see who turns up for more podcasts.
I drove to Cork. That's worth about 5 episodes. Like,
I'm actually playing football.
what?
Oh,
You're a holiday man.
You getting much minutes these days?
Full games, lad.
Full games, right? The club.
It's good, yeah.
Stephen, you've had to put up with a lot of that off air as well, but we're glad to have you in. Probably not the best season from your perspective. Didn't end the way you would have liked it, but at least you're healthy and back playing football, and you're back in with the club now as well, are you?
Yeah. Went back to the club literally the Tuesday night after we lost to Galway, so just went straight back at it. But no, you're right. Probably a disappointing year from a Monaghan perspective. Yeah.
Were you disappointed as well yourself, having played and featured quite heavily in the league, to then suffer the injury and miss quite a few games?
Yeah. No, that was exceptionally disappointing. I had been kind of grappling with a hamstring tendinopathy, and they kind of progressed into both sides. Well, you're familiar with that? And I was coming back in after games, and my strength test was way down on that left hand side, and I would have even felt going into that Derry game. I was thinking, I'm under pressure here. And look, the Thursday night I'd hit good speed and my strength numbers were actually up, but I still felt a wee bit of fatigue because I'd started adding in a wee bit of extra work. So that's kind of really disappointing looking back at that, was that I maybe mismanaged it. And then that Saturday I actually felt a wee nip in it, and then the ball came back to me and I was like, fuck, I have to take my man on here. And then it just went. I'd say if there had been a break of play, I might have recognised that I had a wee nip and let it go. But yeah, no, really disappointing. That ended up being, 9 weeks.
Which is a lot of football with the current structure.
With the current structure, because we lost to Cavan, so I was just back like a week or two after the Cavan game, and then there was another 5 weeks before we got to play football again.
That was the first game too, wasn't it? Of the championship?
That was the first game of the championship, the preliminary, yeah. So I just about missed that, and then you were out another 5. Like, not that you're out, you're training away, and we played actually both the Ian challenges.
Yeah.
But no, it's just a long time to be out of games. Like, obviously that's why you're playing, so running up and down the sideline, and even when you do get back into training, you're playing it for the games, like, so you're missing that. It's a disaster.
That Cavan game was played in terrible conditions, wasn't it? Was that the rainy day, or was that the
No, it was
the hot day?
It wasn't too bad.
It was windy maybe, but I don't think it was. Well, what game?
Do you remember we met Shawnee the week after, wasn't it? And he was saying it didn't feel like a championship fixture.
I think it was windy. I think it was a big wind, maybe ruined it in one of the halves.
Brave enough wind, yeah, but I don't think it was. Well, look, I was sitting up in the stand, but
But you were still itching to get out there, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course. I was gutted. Because I was probably on track for that game, and then fairly innocuously got another. Did a 2B about 2 weeks before that game. So I was the morning of the Mayo game, and I was actually raging. I was thinking, right, I could get into it. Like, the Mayo game was a dead duck for us. Like, it was a dead rubber, but I thought I'd get in for like maybe 10 minutes in that game to kind of give me a chance to get a bit of football before. Now, obviously, that was probably a little bit nuts to think that that'd be smart to do, but that was week 5 to the day, and we obviously did a bit of running that morning before the Mayo game and just doing a wee fly in, and it was like 70% and went again. I was like, what? And that ended up being a 2B, and that kind of knocked me back then for the Cavan game,
it's a tough season when it's so condensed and you're just unlucky with injuries in terms of the timing, because almost you would rather get injured very early on in the season so you'd have a chance to get back and just come straight into the season flying.
Yeah.
But you don't get to pick and choose when you get injured.
No, of course. We had a few boys now. Look, I don't know, I'm not going to complain too much because I've been very fortunate with injuries. I think this is my 5th year, 6th year maybe with Monaghan, and it's the first kind of extended period that I've missed. So, look, touch wood, it'll be the last kind of extended period that I missed, but some of the other boys there have gone through a lot worse, so I'm not going to complain too much, you know.
Probably was interesting at the start of the season having, obviously, Rory gone and then coming back in.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you missed him at the start of the year?
Oh, well, look, any team would miss Rory. You know, he's quality. When you looked at the stats, that like Darren was excellent. He was really, really good, and I think the rest of us let him down a couple of times. We had guys just charging at him uncontested on the high balls and stuff. But look, any team would miss Rory. From a personal perspective wise, I did not notice it at all. I remember chatting to Bano, Michael Banning, in one of the evenings, and I was like, just what's the story with Rory? Like, will he be back or he'll be in or out? And sure, he had trained that night, and I hadn't actually. You just be running about. When you're running about training in games, like Darren was on our team for the little mini game and that, so I only saw really Darren. And then outside of that, you're pressing the kick out in the dark in January, like you're not really looking, is that Rory or is that Darren? Like, you're just kind of running about. So it's not something I paid any attention to at all. Not something I would have really noticed. And then obviously when he's back, you know, he's quality, but
does it affect your game having him there? Because one of the things that he does really, really well is distribute from almost that quarterback position, often with a kick pass towards, say, your line. So, and you do come quite deep to collect the ball quite often. So often you probably are getting the ball off of him.
Yeah, maybe. But
you
at
just
times
don't think about it,
I was
maybe.
getting it off Darren too. Do you know, like he was doing the same thing for us. He was coming out and playing that kind of quarterback role as well. So no, I wouldn't have massively noticed it personally. But that's probably just, you know, from my perspective, it was outside of any of our control, and obviously we were just hoping that he'd get on the best he could and it'd work out well for him. But like when we're going down to training and he's not there. That's no more than if anyone else wasn't there. You're not there, you move on, like, you know.
The only reason I ask is because there's not really anybody else that can fizz that kick pass to the inside like he can fizz it. Like his kickouts are one thing. There's not many people that have a kick out like him as well. But when he gets that ball, say, on his own 65 and just, it's almost like a little stinger. Yeah, a little
spinner.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
There's nobody that can do that. So obviously, if you lose that as a team, I think that maybe you're losing something as a team. But it's good to know that it wasn't noticed by you, and it probably wasn't noticed by the team. It's team first mentality, though, I guess.
Yeah. No, like you might notice it in retrospect. Looking back at, obviously you're after pointing it out there, but as I said, at the time you're going into a game, you're thinking about what you need to do. You know,
it probably doesn't affect you as such either, because a lot of your game is built on creating your own space for yourself by taking lads on.
Probably, yeah.
Rather than trying to lose them when they're chasing you, I suppose, and find little pockets of space here or there. When you get the ball, it's clear that you have one thing in mind, which is I'm going to turn around and have a go at this guy here.
Yeah, maybe that might be it. Yeah, that might be it. I know you're saying he gives those kick passes to that kind of half forward line, but I wouldn't be actually massive for giving or making those presentations. It's something the boys kind of get on to me a wee bit actually about, but probably be more the likes of Mihal. Probably notice it a wee bit more. McHamill, those kind of guys. They kind of make those presentation runs a wee bit more.
Have you always played the game the way that we just spoke about there?
Taking people on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your favourite part of football?
Yeah, it'd be one of my favourite. I love defending. Love
That's
defending.
the first.
Owen doesn't even
Love
like
defending.
defending.
I've heard you boys
Swap
giving
me.
out about it. Actually, I love defending. Yeah. When I was like under 12, under 13, a couple of times I remember being put cornerback like on somebody who'd be like similar kind of athletic, build or speed or whatever. And I used to love it. Playing the basketball, that's what I used to love the most was, finding out that you were matching up with a guy who was averaging whatever 25, 30 points, and then he'd come and play you and you might have 7. And for me, that's just like a massive win, like, because your team's up, 23 points on his average, just by defending.
Has the basketball had a huge influence then on how you play football, do you think?
Yeah,
you-
100%, yeah.
You almost create an ISO every time you get the ball in attack, and then, as you said there, you're focused on trying to limit the damage that your opposite marker can do in defence.
Yeah. So in basketball, like you're rated so kind of equally on how well you are or how well you play from an offensive perspective, and then a defensive perspective as well. So like when I play a game of football, like if I was rating myself out of 10, five of those, marks out of 10 would go to defending, and 5 of them would go to, so if you're really poor defensively, the best you can do is a 50% performance, 5 out of 10. And the basketball would have kind of, influenced me that way, I'd say.
That makes a lot of sense in the modern day. Like everyone's fucking up, everyone's down. Like
Everyone's
I've
on it,
never
100%,
actually thought about it. Although you say, right, everyone has to go forward, everyone has to come back. Like the way you just described it there, that makes the most sense out of anything I've ever heard.
Shift, isn't it?
Yeah, big time.
Dara, 5 points for defence.
I'll give it 2. Back there 20% of the time.
You're inside, are you?
If I'm playing county a lot of the time, I would have been inside over the last few years.
You were a bit further out with us, no? Time we played just.
No, I was inside that day.
Where are you? Yeah?
Oh, sorry, you on about Monaghan or?
Monaghan.
Yeah, I was out that day actually.
Oh, you're on with the Queens one?
Aye, Queens was inside.
What'd you
that
kick
day.
that day? Like 1 second?
I don't know.
It was his last
5
game.
or 6 points, I think.
you and Oren, hey?
It's a long time ago now, lad. You never played college football, lad? You quit after 6
I
months.
had a freshers championship. It was 3 months actually. But freshers championship, beating Woodlands 7-6 by some years.
But this is a good topic to stay on, because when we came in, the two of you were chatting about that game that you played against each other. It's obviously something that sticks in your memory, college football. Do you feel like you missed out on that experience slightly?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think it was the whole reason I went back to Jordanstown was to try win a Sigerson, and play that. And, you were watching it growing up, and a lot of the games would have been in Belfast. I remember, fucking doing a runner from school, and then the St. January's, then the transfer to watch, it was DCU and St. Mary's went the extra time. Going and watching matches, Jordanstown, that was class, watching those sort of games. So, I do feel like I missed out a wee bit, but don't give it too much thought now.
I feel like I even I only played really 1 year Sigerson, and then COVID hit the next year, my final year. So we missed out in that year. So as well as that, when you're playing county football and you're playing college, you probably know yourself, you don't really get a chance to enjoy it, because I remember, I'm pretty sure the day after we beat Hughes, I was training with the county, literally the next day, and was made train, and then was injured 5 days later. But I remember half the squad going on a night out after that, and most of us not even able to go. So the enjoyment side of things maybe taken out of it slightly now.
To be fair, see, going back to Jordanstown, I was hating football at the time, and then going back to Jordanstown and playing uni football for a couple of months was that just completely reignited it. Just freshness, playing with different players, those nights out afterwards, good crack. Always landed back in some Fermanagh man's house. Always a Fermanagh man's house.
Callum Jones.
Don't want to drop any names there, but I looked at some of the Jordanstown team that won that Sigerson. I was kind of going, would I still be there? Would I have been playing with Emmons? But what you said, Ben McCarm was playing. I remember him. He was in Madari at the time. He was getting, you may get up the train here and all that, and he was going home early he wasn't going nights out too much. I mean, he got the odd one, but be a tricky on the balance with it. You were playing. Did you find it hard to balance?
I was very very fortunate. Malachy was over us at the time in 2019, and that was where we went a little bit further with Maynooth. And Malachy was brilliant, like, in terms of managing your load and giving you the freedom to be fresh to go and play. I think, I'm not 100% sure, he was with Mary's, wasn't he? Did he have success with Mary's? St. Mary's? I think he might have, because I think someone mentioned that to me. I remember him coming up to me before the Mary's game, like, and chatting to me about it and that. So I was very fortunate in terms of how I was able to balance it, even like leeway with collective gym sessions and stuff. He would have been brilliant for stuff like that, you know.
Is it so enjoyable because it's so foreign to play with players from different counties and different clubs, because the GAA is so parochial? Like, you play for your club, you play for your county, you can't move.
I just think the seriousness is taken down a notch.
Yeah.
In most of them. Like, from my experience anyway, Queens, like, yes, we wanted to win, but there was an element of you're here to enjoy yourself as well. And you were going into in depth to an extent with tactics and stuff, but not nearly to the extent of county level either. So I think that it was purely that enjoyment side of things that was the reason why I enjoyed it more than probably county football for that period.
Do they emphasise the enjoyment over other things?
Yeah. Well, the manager we had at the time, we had Conor Deegan. I think he's still in with Queens now, but he would have emphasised it quite consistently. Like, we didn't train massive amount either. Like, but like after games, if you got to win, like, he'd be telling you, "Go on out, boys, away you go." Like,
I think that's part of it as well, because you're not training, so, you know, the system isn't as well refined, and generally a lot of the work you put in is on a defensive system. So you're going out to play these games that are just going to end up in cricket scores, like, you know. Now I know it's played at a time of year where that mightn't give for that kind of a game, but I remember some of the games we played in Maynooth. Like, Maynooth's pitch is like a carpet even in the winter, and you were playing with Niall O'Donnell, Jimmy Hyland, Dan Flynn. Like, Dan Flynn, like, if you just kicked it in anywhere in his general direction, it was a good ball, like, you know. And teams weren't that well set up because, as you boys say, like, you're only training maybe once a week, and a lot of boys are maybe standing watching it because they've got county obligations. So games just ended up being throwbacks, like.
Is it a throwback? Is it more old school football because you're coming in with a less refined system?
Well, look, I'm 5-6 years or 4 or 5 years out of it now, so I don't know. You boys were fairly well set up defensively, but I think
also teams, you see.
Also teams, yeah.
We just wouldn't even talk about it. It was just the way we played.
Right, them from the weights.
It was a collection of those different bits. I think you're training less. There's not the enjoyment aspect, and then you just have some quality. If you're on the right team, you just have some quality players. Like,
there's times you would stand back and watch boys go, and you're just going, "That's class." Like, I you had the ball, you see them. Away you go. You do the rest. Like, it's class.
Probably less talk about like making mistakes and that kind of thing. There's more freedom to go and, I suppose, just express yourself at that level or in those competitions.
We had Johnny Doyle and Davy Burke, and Davy used to take, like, you know, 25 of the lads up one end and do like defensive stuff, and you hear him shouting and roaring, and you know the way Davy is, like, he's brilliant. And then we used to potter up the other end with Johnny, and we'd just be kicking the ball to each other, like, and having a crack, and he was like, "It's about you guys getting along and getting to know each other." And so the 5 of us would just be kicking spinners to each other and turning and kicking over the bar. It was great crack, like, you know, watching the other end there, thinking at least I'll never have to go back to that. But at that point, like, you were keeping 3 and 4 men up, like, foreign to what you'd see now, like, or what you'd see from the games on the telly.
Do you think some clubs, maybe even some counties, get that slightly wrong then, that the enjoyment goes out of it, and then maybe the results suffer because they're trying to refine a system to the extent that lads aren't even enjoying playing football anymore, and then we see this exodus of players that either drop off from playing county or emigrate because they're just not enjoying their football anymore?
I think there is an element of it. I was going to nearly ask, I thought you were going to chat about, you know, the enjoyment side of things and maybe the social side of things. I do think a lot of players put that on themselves, which when players are trying to get to a certain level, they're going to give up certain things to put everything into it. But yeah, like, I think I know there's times I'd switch off, like, but it can almost be too serious at times, and you want to just have that wee bit of relaxation. Like I remember a couple of years ago, there was one boy in the answering panel, like, and he was just going, "Well, just want to have fun." Like you were going and you were doing just stuff. You're just going, "Fuck me, yes again," just monotonous, repetitive, and it's like we just want to have fun. Went and played a match. Maybe won the match the next weekend. Then the next week it was back to square one. Like, and it was just yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for it. Like.
That's kind of like what Connor Sweeney said as well. As he said to you, "Sure, we do drills now, and sure sometimes you'd be saying, why are we doing this for?"
Because I just do a drill for the drill's sake. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. So,
but the purest form of football is playing football. So the more football you can play in training sessions, probably the more you're going to enjoy it and the better you're going to get.
Yeah, I think sometimes though players end up ruining it from themselves because you go and play a match that just turns into a pure basketball game. It's just up and down, up and down. Whereas if you can go into a game and it's actually treated as if you're going to play a game, which I'm sure is probably hard to recreate at times. Like I think that would, if you're actually getting out of that game what you wanted to work on, I think that would go a long way. But sometimes you go in an in-house game and it just ends up up and down chaos.
Yeah.
Like
every time nearly.
Why does that happen?
Because you've players wanting to impress. Mainly, like especially the B team will usually always be the one who is. It's just complete chaos because they're less
always winning.
Yeah, but I suppose the A team, they're mad to work on structure and work on things that are going to improve in the game. But the B team's not in the team, so they're just out to play well. So do you know what I mean?
I was gonna say, and Jack, and that proves a point that just fuck it, go for it. Like, if the B so the A team's working this structure and being set up for the weekend, the B team's just going here, fuck it, we'll have a cut here, and end up winning the game. Like, what that'd say a lot for just here, just go for it.
The A team's probably trying to work on that structure, but not doing it to the level that they do it in games.
And they're not throwing it out the window if it's not working because they know that they're in training. So this is the time that they're going to make mistakes, get better at it.
True.
But
I just go for it.
The thing that I would ask is the B team players that are just going for it, if their error count is incredibly high because they're trying outside the boot scores from all angles, if they pull off one of them, are they thinking, oh, I'm going to get in the team because I've pulled off this one outside of the boot score? Where realistically, if they're efficient on the field, even if they're on the B team and the B team is winning, they're going to be more likely to get picked. Would I not be correct in saying that?
It's hard to think that way when you're in that environment. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to know what you kind of need to know your managers and your coaches, I suppose, and what they want out of you. And sometimes that mightn't be clear. So as a forward, you're probably just thinking the more scores I can get here, the more I'm going to impress.
I've seen it though, where boys are trying to shoot the lights out, and they end up kicking 5 ways in the game, and everyone's just going, "What are you at?" Like,
they're well out of contention. And then they're well out of contention.
Yeah. You're in a very competitive position in the forwards for Monaghan. So when you're coming back in to the setup, what are you focused on trying to do in training to set yourself apart and get your name on that team sheet?
Yeah, there's probably no one thing. Like when you talk there about boys thinking they need to get their name on the score sheet, I think our boys in the past couple of years, and obviously the boys before as well, I've been fortunate that I think it's been very, very clear what the group values. And it's not necessarily, like obviously it's important to score as a forward, but getting turnovers, your man not winning a kick out, you winning kick outs, you breaking a line, like there's a collection of kind of number of things that will get you back into the team, and they have been made very clear, you know, and they're not maybe the things that people would talk about or notice after a game. Like if I came out of a game and I had won, 3 or 4 hard kickouts that, give us a platform to attack further out the pitch, I would think, geez, I played well there. Yeah. And that's not something that somebody in the crowd might notice. You think, oh, that's just a kick out. But if you're under pressure on a press and you can get your team out 1, 2, 3 times a game, like that's so important.
If it's those simple things that you're more focused on, why is it that Monaghan produced so many marquee forwards that are great at taking on players and scoring from all angles? Is it the style of football?
I don't know. I thought we would have gotten criticised for. I hear people criticising us for not having enough. I don't know. It's nice to hear you say that, actually.
But it's true. Like, if you look
I
at
agree with you.
Conor McManus, you look at Jack, and even
Yeah.
if you watch
Yeah.
those, I think it was the county final last year, Scottstown, or potentially it
Scottstown
was
in
the
this
first
game.
round of the Ulster. No, it was the county final, and all the scores were crazy scores. It was like that Armagh game.
Oh, just quality. I actually don't know. It's a great question.
Are you encouraged to take on whatever shots you think are on in the club game?
I can't speak to what the other lads are getting in their clubs. That's a tough one to answer. I don't know why. I don't know why. There's some quality, and there's some lads that you might have seen a whole pile of either that are absolutely quality as well. Like, you might have seen a massive amount of the likes of David Garland and maybe Sean Jones.
Sean Jones.
He's a
Like, and he was
baller,
shooting
man.
the lights out. Like,
Yeah, he's
all the time.
unbelievable.
Even those Ulster minor tournaments, like the one at St Paul's, like he would be
You should see him for the club.
1-5,
he would have been
1-6,
at
1-7
St
again.
Paul's is right.
Aye,
Maybe 2 years in a row. We might have been in that
a
competition.
couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
And then school watching school football too. Like he was flying.
Sean Jones the same.
It's in Chicago
Um,
with him. Serious player.
You were. Yeah.
Oh, you were there that year too,
I
actually.
was, yeah. We got dumped out
Cobbled
early enough.
them.
And Ty Callan as well. You were with him, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good lad.
He's my club mate,
Is
actually.
he?
No, yeah. To answer your question, I don't know why. But
But there are so many forwards that over the years we've seen Monaghan forwards get moved back to field into the half back line.
like who said you says?
Yeah.
Says, yeah.
He's
I don't
still
know.
well
I don't
able
know
to
what
take a
that
score
was.
from
Yeah,
there
I don't know
as
what
well.
that was born out of. Maybe we weren't getting him the ball enough. I remember we played Armagh in the first round of the league last year, and I remember being taken aback, probably a wee bit actually, going back to kind of the influence the basketball would have on me, like, and playing in a point guard spot. You'd be thinking, part of my job here is to get the best players the ball, in advantageous positions as often as possible. And I think he had a limited number of possessions that night. And I'd say the thinking, I don't know what the thinking was, but it might have been that if we bring him back further back the field, that he's going to get on more ball and he's going to be able to impact the game better. I listened to his chat with Paddy Lynch on the way up the road, and I think he were talking about playing as an inside forward against mass defences is very difficult to influence the game.
Yeah.
So you take someone like Cess, and my thing would be with Cess, give him the ball as often as you can give him the ball, and give him as much space as possible, and just enjoy the rest of it.
He's scoring 2-3 points a game from wing back, like, so it's a good.
He loves cutting in off the side in towards the D
Yeah.
and knocking it over from there.
He can kick off both feet, but he seems to have a serious level of conditioning as well,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
is probably why you could slot him back in there and know that he's going to get up and down the whole game.
Yeah. No, I would do for sure.
Yeah.
So with all these quality players, then this might be a very direct question, but what went wrong this year?
Yeah.
Seemed to be unlucky with the injuries from what I could
We
see.
had an awful lot of injuries. You see, I don't want to say, I'm reluctant to say that
It's the
because
truth.
at the time you're there thinking, like, we had a lot of injuries with the guys that were coming in. I would, rate really, really highly. So I still don't think, like, it's very easy kind of for us to say, we had a pile of injuries, but I'm looking at it thinking, with the group that we had on the field for a lot of these games, we should still be winning these games.
But it's not just the quality or caliber of player that you lose when somebody becomes injured. It's team cohesion.
Yeah. No, that probably did have a lot to do with it when the game or the team is changing, kind of teams changing week to week with guys just dropping like flies. We had a lot of guys out.
Yeah.
Where do you think the injuries were coming from? Like, what was there? Loads of training load, close fixtures, boys just maybe carrying niggles and trying to get themselves up for a game, sort of thing, or
I don't know. Like, this is something I would have asked myself, obviously, naturally enough. Like, but we the exact same management team, the exact same physio team, the exact same S&C team as last year, and not a whole pile changed. So it's hard. I think sometimes you can just be unfortunate. Like, one of the things I would have said about us last year was, I think we won a lot of close games, and we were able to keep probably our best 15 on the field for almost every game for the year, and that's such an advantage. Whereas maybe the teams that we were beaten by a point or two maybe weren't doing that. you'd be looking back and it's saying, geez, we did a brilliant job in terms of managing load and all the rest. And you bring the same guys back and something else happens, or the complete opposite happens. I don't think it's very hard to. I mean, you'd probably know, you can speak to this better than anyone with injury. Like, it's so multifactorial. It's very hard to pinpoint any one thing. You're spending 3 nights a week at the pitch and another, or 3 times a week at the pitch, and however many hours outside of it. Like, it's.
Yeah.
The thing as well is the load is different if you win or lose. After a loss, if you go into the dressing room and you're taking RPE, all of the RPEs are 9, 10. After a win, with the exact same load, you go in and you ask the players, 7, 8. So the perceived load and the perceived intensity goes up when you lose versus when you win.
Are those anonymous reports, or do you think boys are saying, I'm not going to be called out here now for not working hard enough?
Most of the time, you'd go directly to them and you're trying to get the load for each individual so that you can modify their load in the coming weeks and the coming training sessions, but also a gauge of where the team is at on average, so that you're seeing if the loads are going up, if we need to drop down and taper for a week, or if we're accumulating more volume session by session, game by game. But one thing that I noticed was, in my experience as an S&C coach, if you're winning games, you have more players available, there are less injuries. If you're losing games, there seems to be a lot more injuries. Now, are you losing games because of the injuries? Maybe it's a factor for sure, but initially, if you lose those games, you're more likely to have players get injured thereafter. So then it's like a negative feedback loop, and it's like a cascade of a season.
Worse.
Whereas, as you said, when you didn't have lads injured, it seemed you were coming out on the right side of games by 1 or 2 points. Then, if all of a sudden at the start of the following season, you're coming out on the wrong side of that by 1 or 2 points, that can cascade into a pretty poor season with a lot of injuries. And the other thing that we're not talking about, it's not that simple, but when you lose games, the tendency from management and coaching staff is to push harder in training sessions, which then can exacerbate the issue of chronic and acute injuries. Then,
I've seen that before.
so you have to control almost yourself as a coach, and control or try to guide the other coaching staff to control themselves as well, and just stick to the plan. And hopefully, if you play the long game, you'll succeed. But unfortunately, due to the nature of GA, we're very game-to-game focused and very reactive. And I don't think that lends itself to getting you out of a hole when you're going poorly. But it sounds like, and I know that you have quite good staff as well, so sometimes it can be just bad luck.
I don't think there was any kind of reactivity with us. The one thing that I'd always admire about Vinny is that he wouldn't be overly emotional. It lends itself to giving lads a lot of confidence going into games, I think. He's been there, he's only recently
so
out.
Fresh for him.
My first year in, I roomed with Vinny on a trip, so he knows what pressures come with playing and what pressures come with losing a run of games. And for us, I thought we did it. We managed it. Obviously not well enough because we were losing, but I thought we managed, trying to stick to the process quite well. We were just losing games, and look, that can happen. You're playing against the best teams in the country, week in, week out.
Are the lines so fine now in terms of who wins and who loses? And if you're in that Division 1 and you're up there playing with the best teams in the country, like this year you could play one system and be unsuccessful. Next year you could play the exact same system and ultimately just be a little bit luckier, get the rub of green and be a little bit more successful.
Yeah. You like to say that there's no luck involved and that you make your own luck and all the rest, but in games with really fine margins at the highest level, luck definitely does play a role. But you wouldn't be talking about that. You'd be coming out of it and you'd be thinking, we could have done X, Y, Z marginally better, and then you win this game by a point or two. But I think you see it going that way. Like all the games tend to be quite close, particularly towards the end of the year. You look at the likes of, I would have noticed in our game against Galway, say the the second half, the possession count for each team was like 15. I think it was 35 overall. I've played games where you guys might get the stat sheets back with your games or that. Maybe not. You don't look at it on, do you? You might be up on
cornerback as much as my man scored.
But you might be looking at 50 odd possessions in a game, and then the potential for a big gap in scoring is really high. But if each team only has 35 possessions, you can only score so much in 35. In the second half of that game, there's only 15 possessions. Like the most you can score is 15. Do you know what I mean? Because you only have the ball 15 times. So when you watch the Derry Kerry game, I think that's the emphasis on how important each possession is, and maybe limiting the number of possessions if you feel like you're the perceived weaker team, or need to be more methodical. It lends itself to these really slow, monotonous.
That was a masterclass though in coaching and setting up a team, because that was clearly what Kerry talked about, and what they had implemented was, let's slow the build up so that we don't turn over the ball. Because if we don't turn over the ball, Derry can't score really.
It is. I had a maths teacher in secondary school who used to say you start every exam with 100% and you whittle it down from there. Like, you're going to start the game with probably 40 possessions, and you have to win your own kick out from that. You have to create an attack and cross the 45 from that. You have to get a shot from that. And then it's your shooting percentage outside of that. Now, if you stumble at the first hurdle and you don't win your own kick out, or you don't get the ball across the 45, you don't even get a shot off, you turn it over inside the 45, and you can't even score yet. So I think that's why you see teams now. I know I would have coached our club minors last year, and that's what I would have reiterated to them over and over again. And maybe it's not the nicest brand of football in the world to watch, but that's what the game has lent itself to. And I know from having watched, I watched that Kerry game, it's like you want to see. I played with, say, Tony Brosnan in the States. Guy's a freak. You want to see him do these spectacular things, but that's not.
But if he doesn't need to win the game.
Yeah, but then it becomes an issue with the game. I don't want to be coming back to basketball over and over again, but basketball didn't have a shot clock once upon a time, and sure, the game was just garbage. Now it's years and years ago now, but a team would build like a 4-point lead in basketball and then try and dribble around the court, for the rest of the thing. Swear to God, keeping the ball. And then the rule was implemented that you couldn't, once you crossed the halfway line, you couldn't go back across. You only had 8 seconds to get across it, and you only have 24 seconds in total. And that's where you get the tactical side of it from an offensive perspective that was born out of. Whereas now you guys know, playing it, there's no pressure on you to get a shot. You hear people shout all the time, there's no shot clock. So why would you take a risk, or why would you not go all the way back to your keeper? Because you're trying to hold on to the ball until you can get a score. And unfortunately, the teams that do that the best, well, not unfortunately, look, I don't mind
not
playing
all
that way, but
a lot of them.
A lot of the teams that you see maybe outperforming their potential or getting towards the end of competitions tend to be managing those situations the best. You're looking at a Ireland quarter-final with two of the most talented teams in the country, and you're seeing guys soloing the ball on the spot in the middle of the field. Not that, and I'm not criticising them, I'm just saying
they're playing.
That's what the game.
They're playing.
That's what the game has lent itself to.
But it doesn't always lend itself to that.
Not always, no.
And I think when it does lend itself to that, we have a tendency to be really fixated and focus on it and say, look at the game, it's terrible. It's in an awful place. Whereas there was great games as well on at the weekend too. Mm-hmm. Do you know? And that's just styles. You're not going to have a good game in every single game that's played. The 2 hurling matches at the weekend were phenomenal. I've watched some bad hurling this year as well. You have to take the good with the bad. You can't be pleased every time you go out. But do you think that implementing either a shot clock or a backcourt rule, like you said, would have a tangible benefit to what we're observing week in, week out in terms of match play and the quality?
Well, I think it would force your hand to go forward. It would force your hand to have an offensive structure that you're making sure you're getting a shot off, but it's time pressured, so that you can't try something, it not work, turn around and kick it backwards, go to the other side and try it again, and do that. The first possession of second half against Galway, they had the ball for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. It was the first thing I did when I got sent the video was time it and be like, how long did they hold that thing? Because I remember at the time thinking, they have this in age.
Yeah.
Now it ended in a turnover, but it's just the whole sting is just taken out of the.
Do you think
the
that
game, you know?
shot clock would be more important than
Well, that's kind of what you don't want to see. Is 4 minutes of going side to side. And I understand why teams do it. And
I think teams would just start everyone playing 15 mind the ball. Do you think it needs to be paired with so many players being kept up? Because if you say, right, this team is 1 minute, right, we'll just drop everyone back and it might take them a minute to get a shot.
No press,
I think you need to pair
but then
it
on
with
the flip
2
side
up,
of that, you
3
only have
up.
a minute when you win it back.
Yeah, it just
Do you know what I mean? So you need to get
sprint.
you need to get everyone forward, and it's not going to be physiologically possible to just go here to here to here to here to here. So you might see a change.
That's never stopped the coach wanting you to do it in the past. But if you have, you mightn't necessarily need to stop the backcourt or the ball coming back out past the 65 or the 45 if you have the shot clock in place.
Aye, maybe not. But okay, look, there's obviously practical implications. Like for
why is it a problem if
implementing the
Galway
shot clock.
keep the ball for 3 minutes 45 seconds, but if Barcelona keep the ball for 3 minutes 45 seconds, there's a clip put
it's
up?
applauded, yeah, because I know like
It's not the same, is it?
It's a different
they're
sport,
keeping about
but
the middle and we ticky tackle, like
Soccer games and
if we were keeping the ball for 4 minutes on the ground and passing it between each other, it might be a bit of crack, but
that's why soccer's shite.
True. That is potentially why people won't watch that sport as well. So we probably shouldn't be
I
encouraging.
don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think they're an excellent team, and if I wanted to win more games, like one of the things I'd be looking at is like they're doing that really, really well. I think we need to emulate that.
That's what we said.
You know?
You said under Roy or Fermanagh, you got what did you get, Sammy? Final. You said you didn't care how you got there, like as long as you
It
were
was all about winning that year because you believed in the system and you knew
what you were getting.
you could win from it.
Yeah,
which was the biggest thing.
And from a playing perspective, it's really enjoyable to be involved in.
Yeah.
When you're winning,
it's almost great. You love holding the ball for like 4 minutes and frustrating the opposition.
I know.
But then when you're watching a neutral game, like, and you're like, these boys are unreal. I want to see them do the special things that they can do. But then when you're involved in it, it's different.
Is the issue then that Derry did not change their system to account for Kerry taking so long to bring the ball up the field? Should Derry have been a little bit more aggressive? Because that has been something with Derry thus far this year. People have been critical of them because something quite apparent has been happening on the field, and it's maybe taken them 3 goals to be conceded before they've realised, okay, we need to change this up. So is it on Derry to change the system and change the way that game is unfolding, not on Kerry?
Yeah. They've lost by 5 points. So it's in game. I think this is something that people have been going at Derry now for the last couple of months, is their lack of adaptability in game. I think you just need to learn. I suppose half times were your biggest opportunity to come in and say, right, this is what they're doing. It's clear as day what they're doing. What can we do to change it? And if you don't change it, then if nothing changes, nothing changes. So, and that's probably what happened at the weekend. But as you say, like Kerry, that is probably exactly how Kerry wanted that game to go. And even with Clifford barely being in the game for the whole game, they still managed to win and they didn't care. So, and he didn't seem to care either. It's all about winning at the end of the day, really.
The flip side of that is, though, you can. It's a bit like Bielsa when he was at Leeds, and everything that hasn't been tried is the solution. Like, who's to say that if Derry go and press, higher up the field, that they just don't get killed?
That's true.
So
and Kerry probably knew that.
That's the other thing. Like, it's like
I'll throw it back in you with Bielsa. This might be too Leeds heavy. The lads won't know what we're talking about here. But losing by 5 points and losing by 25 is the exact same thing.
Is it though? Because when you lose
it
by
is
5,
in a knockout game. In a knockout game, it is.
But if you reduce the margins, there's the chance as the weaker team that maybe you get a goal. Like the Derry missed a goal chance right at the start of that game. Maybe that changes the complexion of the game to get to stick with it through their process. I think they know what they're really good at.
It probably does, but you're also not going to get a goal by dropping back and letting Kerry come up the field that slowly.
I think it's more like they probably what they should have done was change at the very end, like last 5-10, and go after it then. Right, we're still in the game, we're still within a couple of points. Whereas if you go after that,
at the
if you go after that 20
end, I was a bit
minutes to go,
surprised at that actually. Were they just out on their feet?
potentially.
Park's a big
A lot of
pitch,
them boys, in like again, we talk about injuries, but a lot of them boys didn't have a massive amount of football in them and were playing full games. So
And haven't had a break as well.
2
a lot.
years
Yeah.
on the shot, like,
yeah,
So maybe we're just too critical of them. To be fair,
Kerry
like,
are
a good team.
just
I think
You're very Kerry, like.
I think Derry get the tight touch because they've been bigged up so much at the start of the year too. Like, so McGurn had them for All Ireland winners at the start of the year.
Love bringing that one up. But then, if
who
we,
do you have? Antrim?
Fuck, Dublin.
yeah, probably.
Dublin.
But then, if we look at that game, like Galway did go and win it, but there is luck involved as well. Like if Shane Walsh was unavailable, or if he doesn't come back out after the halftime break, like it's probably a different game. So I don't know what the hell went on at halftime, but getting him back out on the field was probably a priority because he was playing so well. Now, he didn't ultimately have to shoulder all the responsibility because everyone chipped in with scores, but that game could have went either way, but Galway seemed to go and take it. But that's the type of game that we want to watch, I guess.
second half of that game.
How do you facilitate that? Or do you need to facilitate it? Does it just happen?
Let them cook.
It's just high quality players at times. When you look at the moments in them in that game, when you look at the highlights, like moments of brilliance from Shane Walsh, moments of brilliance from Killian McDaid, and that's what created a tight game going into the final stretch, which is what any team playing Dublin wants. So I don't think you can read too much into systems and structures with that one.
But should we not be leaving the weekend talking about how good of a game that was rather than talking about Kerry and Derry and how bad of a game that was? Do we have a tendency to focus on the negative in
I
Ireland?
think that's Irish
that's
culture
very
in
true.
general. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Ireland.
Yeah. No, you're probably right. Probably right. I think we're probably just seeing a wee bit more of particularly maybe at club level, you're seeing a wee bit more of a reflection of the Kerry Derry game than you would the Dublin Galway game, because you don't have the same quality of player as you're saying,
100%.
and it makes it so much harder to, break down those systems. Those systems are so much more effective when you don't have to deal with Shane Walsh,
Exactly.
Killian
Exactly.
McDaid, and,
And most of the time you won't, I suppose. But then, because we spent quite a while on Kerry and Derry, and I want to actually go and contrast what I was just saying about focusing on the positive rather than the negative. Can we see Galway going and winning against Donegal? Because that was a huge test, and a couple of lads were hanging on by the end there. A big fixture. Whereas Donegal seemed to be almost gradually rising. They had that one blip against Cork, but they're almost getting better each time that they turn out. So who are you picking in that fixture?
It's a hard one to call. I think you're right in saying Donegal are nearly going in one direction, whereas Galway will struggle massively to get it back up to that level again, simply because of the potential that Shane Walsh may be carrying an injury, and then obviously Comer has been as well. That's their two key men. So I think if they're fully firing and fully fit, then I'd probably fancy Galway. But if not, I think Donegal will beat them.
I think I'll go Donegal. I think just from like a freshness and an energy standpoint, I think they'll plant their legs on them.
You've watched no football anyway. That's why I started looking at you. It's like, this lad's been on a yacht in Marbella or something like that, asking him his opinion on this. But I agree with you anyway, so that shows how much I know. Stephen?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to sit on the fence. I want to give you an answer, but I haven't watched the whole pile of Donegal. We haven't played them since the McKenna Cup, and I don't really watch a massive amount of football outside of teams that we're going to be playing or have played. If you pressed me, just don't know. I was going to say Galway, but I don't know. I caught the end of the Donegal game. If Galway come out and do something similar to it, like if they limit the number of possessions, and Donegal will become more and more compact, because they rely so much on that transition and that attack transition, that being rapid. If you hold the ball for 4 minutes and force a team to defend for that length, and they get more and more compact as you do it, it's very hard to transition out of that. So maybe Galway, because I've watched more of them, I feel a wee bit more confident backing them. And I would almost go as far to say, as even if they were missing a couple of boys, I think their spread of scores against us, and even the boys that shone at the end of that game last week. Like it was Keane Darcy come up and kicked the score, and McHugh kicked a great score against us. Johnny Heaney was really good when he came in.
Flying too.
Flying.
Wouldn't want to mark him.
But the thing is, when you have Shane Walsh in that team, he almost commands respect from the defence and from the defender.
So frees up everybody else. Yeah.
Keeping the ball is a lot easier when you have him there, because when he gets the ball, he's given a little bit more time and space, because players back off because they're expecting him to go at them, which is probably what they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But it's easy to say that here and now, whereas if he wins the ball and he goes past you straight away, then you have a mismatch and an overlap straight away. So,
and you've seen him do it where he just keeps going and going and gets goals.
Exactly. The celebrations from Armagh last weekend, the weekend before last, were huge as well, as they finally get to a semi-final. Can we see them getting over Kerry, or was that celebration like their achievement and their goal was to get to a semi-final?
I don't. Obviously, it's a big occasion for them getting to the semi-final, but I think with what you've seen of them, you have seen ups and downs with them as well. Like the big game that stands out was the Down and Armagh game. Like what was that, 4-3 at halftime or something like. And you were expecting Armagh just to kick on and be at a different level, and it just didn't happen. So I don't know. I think that like getting over the line and having such a big like buzz after that, like I'm sure going into training, that buzz is there. Is there a bit of excitement and maybe taken away from the task at hand? I don't know, but again, looking at you would just have to, you would have to probably back Kerry there, but I don't. It depends what Armagh team shows up on the day. Like,
but have you watched Kerry this year and said, "Wow, that was unreal"?
That's the thing as well. They've just been getting over the line. They've been doing their job. They've been going about their business quietly. Like,
hammered us.
So you have. That was the week before you were due to come on as well.
Yeah. Ruined that for you for a week.
No.
I thought they were good enough that day. No.
They're decent.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very close, and I think if Armagh can learn from what Derry didn't do and bring that to the game, I think there'll be a max of 2 points in it. They'll be going down the home stretch with the chance of winning the game, I believe anyway. So I still think Kerry will get over the line, but it'll be very close, I think.
You haven't given us a prediction yet, David.
I said Galway 2
You
minutes
did.
ago. Eventually, you'd have to back Kerry, but like you, I think it'll be a really. I give Armagh a chance for sure, like, but you'd have to back Kerry with the quality they have, and they've been there so many times as well. Like, I know we're playing in it last year. Like, it's a different occasion. You can say what you want, and you probably think our mindset going into it was probably really, really good, but you get to the last 10-15 minutes of that game, and Dublin are bringing on guys who have been there year in, year out. And the guys who are staying in the field, been there year in, year out. Kerry are going to, benefit from that.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, you're going to benefit from it. Yeah. From having that experience so often.
If you look at the four then now, like, that's the thing about Dublin being knocked out. From a lot of perspectives, it's been said that it blows the championship wide open and anybody can win it. So if you're to pick one out of the four now, would you probably all pick one different one?
Do you want me to pick who I want to win it or who I think I should win it?
You give us both, Darren.
Boys. I want Galway to win it, but I think Kerry will win it.
I was thinking, looking at the four, like initially you're just going Kerry because of past experience, because they've been there, because they've done it. But like, if you look at how the games are going this year, you're saying that's wide open. Like, personally, I think Kerry will, but yeah, as you're saying, if you say with Dublin being out and it's being blown wide open, like all those teams will be sitting there going, why can't we?
They'll all
why
have
can't we
full
win?
belief they can win it this year.
100%.
I believe anyway.
Why not?
They probably all could on the day.
Yeah, they could, 100%.
Probably Kerry, but I wouldn't mind seeing any of the other teams. The other teams win it. I think Galway were brilliant. Obviously, Donegal and the whole McGuinness effect, and I love the way they play, and I love the kind of players that what is he? He's got like a bunch of boys who can play wing back.
Yeah.
In that middle eight,
and
just pure athleticism, and it's brilliant to watch.
Machines.
I have a couple of mates play with Armagh, so I'd be happy enough. See any of them win it, like wouldn't be like Dara there. I wouldn't be thinking to pick one that want to win it because I don't like three of the other ones. No, but you'd have to. I think you have to say Kerry just based on, like, if you were the bookies, like Kerry'd be.
Yeah, been there, done that. Been to finals, been to semi-finals. They know how to get over the line. As you said, they haven't impressed that much from your estimation, but they've been getting over the line week in, week out. Tailteann Cup final is on this weekend as well, lads.
If
you didn't know.
Antrim won, not sure.
It's down in Laois, actually. So
is it?
No, it's down.
I thought he said down in Laois.
Down in Laois. Down in Laois.
I was thinking they got a home game.
No, they're playing it actually
That's what I thought.
at 3 o'clock on Saturday before the Armagh Kerry game, which is good because it'll actually get quite a few people into it. Who are you picking in that one? If you have to pick someone.
Fairly confident Down will win that.
Yeah, probably Down. But in saying that, Laois, like the turnaround from last year, they've been a completely different team from last year. But you would be like, if Down don't go on and win it, they'll be fucking kicking themselves, like.
Especially after
last
year when they played Laois.
After that, and then even from the final too, I think Down really backed themselves and expect themselves to win that final last year too. Like, so I think in terms of what they've been aiming for, looking promotion, going like even the league final, losing the league final, like they'll be going right. We have to put it right here. So yeah, I'd say Down.
Stephen,
Down. Say Down.
Resounding. You did commend Laois earlier in the season though, and said that like they've quite a good, strong team and they play a decent style as well.
Yeah,
I think that was during the league.
It was the league final weekend.
Yeah.
As Owen said, they have improved massively from last year. We played them last year. They beat us last year actually, but they shouldn't have. Whereas this year it was a very good game. We won by a point, but they were strong all over. Like their kickouts were, as you say, such a platform. Possessions, I think they might have had over 80%, 90% kickouts on us. Killian Roach in the goals is superb. So, and he can kick long range frees, both of them. Things will have a huge impact, I think, this year. So it'll 100% be a lot closer than the game last year, and they have a few high quality forwards that will play in a lot of counties in Ireland, between Evan O'Carroll and Mark Barry. Like, so they'd probably fancy themselves to put it up, and obviously they have that chip on their shoulder, I suppose, from last year, which is I think is going to have an impact too. They'll be well up for it. So yeah, I suppose the pressure's on Down as well, given that they probably see themselves as a higher level team. So probably feel they have a chance anyway.
Before we wrap up, I know we traditionally talk mostly about football in this podcast, but how good was the hurling at the weekend?
Unbelievable.
Best game of hurling I've watched since probably the Kilkenny Tipperary games
Final.
back in
Is that
what, 2010?
I said the poll is like, fuck no, the All Ireland tickets. I was like, we should have took the ones for hurling this year.
My brother gets 2. I'm going to nab one.
But like, just that Cork and Limerick fixture just went one way, then it went the other way, and Limerick are never beaten. But
that's what you probably
the underdog effect too, though.
Yeah, I think you expected Limerick to step up. You're going right. Limerick at half time, you're going, Limerick are starting to come back into here. They're going to kick into gear.
Yeah,
and like the intensity that Cork brought that whole game. But yes, there was maybe a wee bit of a lull, but then they picked it back up again. Just when you thought they were maybe starting to die off, they picked it back up again. You're like, this is class.
It was such an old school performance too. Like the keeper was just absolutely booming the ball into the full forward line every single time. which again is like the way you would have watched hurling years ago. So
that was class.
But then it was probably reffed like an old school game as well, in that like any time that it got bunched or whatever, he just said, right lads, blow the whistle, throw it in. Is there anything to be said for doing that in football if it does get a bit shit?
Stop this.
Stop this, hand pass around, we're throwing it in. Yeah.
He threw the ball in from the middle of the field after every score.
But I thought he reffed it really well. Like, he let the game flow. There was very few stoppages. Like, and at halftime there was a bit of a debate around like some of the decisions that were being made for. But like, you're not going to get every decision correctly. The main thing as a referee, I think, is to allow the game to flow well.
Yeah.
100%. Just makes for a better spectacle and allows players to bring that intensity without the fear of giving away frees constantly.
Do football refs let it flow?
Depends.
Some do, some don't.
So
realistically,
like you get the only one, like you see Paul Floon, like a lot of times we would get a lot of Paul Floon in Ulster, like, and he lets it go and it's class, like him and Cavan Floon too, to be fair, but a lot of times they're fucking blowing for everything, like, and you're just...
That was your cornerback, that's what you're saying. I'm surprised at you, inside forward, you want to let the game flow.
Well, he's also 6'5" or whatever.
I don't get any frees.
But yeah, like, it is a debate, I suppose. Like, if you let it flow, it's going to be a more physical game, but it's also going to be a faster game. So sometimes you have to let a few of the frees that are, by letter of the law, frees.
That, but I find it takes ambition out of. You're going to disagree with me here. I find it takes, for me personally, if I feel like there's a ref who's just going to let it flow, it takes your ambition away to beat somebody. If you beat somebody and you know that your arm can just be pulled, or you can be wrung around the neck, then I'm not going to do it, because then it's just like you're turning the ball over. So I feel like if the tackle was clearly defined and you have to defend it though. That's the other thing. That's up to the rule makers.
This was the other thing that he did well, was he used the advantage rule really well.
Yeah,
and I think that might be the difference.
Maybe, yeah. I just feel like that. You hear that cliche of, oh, well, you took it into the contact. Well, what do you want me to do? You're giving out about me kicking it backwards, and now you're giving out about taking a man on. Like, make up your mind here.
Yeah,
do you know, just if I get pulled in the arm, and even if it is, or you see guys who go to hand pass the ball, I do it. Like, I'll aim for their hand, and the ball spills, and it's great turn. It's not. I fouled them. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you just get the ball back.
But Owen will be told, well done, great job.
But it is. But like. Yeah. Well, what is great tackle? It's what you can get away with on the day.
100%.
But I just know, chatting to a couple of the other lads as well, like, you're looking to see who's reffing, and you're trying to get advice from maybe the more experienced lads in the group. Will I get away with taking a man on here, or will I not? Do you know? Yeah. And from a defensive perspective, like, what can I... Do you know what I mean? Like, you just love, complete consistency from week to week. And for me, personally, I'd love the consistency to be freeze. And then I think people would tackle in a more disciplined manner, and then you'd see more ambition from attack-minded players to go and try and beat people, because you're going to be, like, you see it in the soccer. I remember reading an Eden Hazard quote about how he'd rate his performance. Part of it would be how many frees he's won, whereas if he was getting almost penalised for that, because Hazard's, he's already won 5 frees, I'm not giving him a 6th one. But then he's not going to have that ambition to go and be creative.
It's a fine line with that as well, though.
Now, if I get put the wing back, I'll change my opinion.
but yeah, that's what I was going to say. You give the advantage to the attacker, like they do in soccer, and then they start playing for the free, and that's what we don't want to see.
Boys do that anyway.
Yeah, they do. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to see more of it.
Maybe, yeah. No, that's a good point as well. Yeah, and obviously it's much more advantageous to win a free in Gaelic than soccer, because it's almost county level anyway. It's a guaranteed point, feel like. Maybe. I just know from my own perspective, like, blow the whistle, man. Giving me free.
All right, well, I better say as well, great to see Kilkenny get bet as well. Before I was about to say to any listeners from Kilkenny, I'm sorry, but it's a football podcast, so there isn't any. But Stephen, thanks for coming in today. Great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Delighted to get you. Cheers.